Google Earth. Everybody, I think they have seen Google Earth. That is all global coordinates. Now, another important point in this is, see, as I told, we all have observed GPS data, right? When we are moving on the vehicle, so we are observing the GPS data. But in terms of accuracy, it is not accurate. You see, when we are moving in a car and we are taking help of GPS, so sometimes along the junction, okay, it reroutes, but it reroutes when we have moved on the wrong path, maybe 5, 10 meters, 15 meters, or 20 meters. So that much inaccuracy is there in terms of the global coordinates. Now, how to rectify that? See, that is rectified with the help of DGPS, Differential Global Positioning System. Okay, what is DGPS? See, it is taking the reading from 3, 4 satellites. It's not taking a reading from single satellite, and then it is distributing the error and minimizing the error. Okay, so that is DGPS. So NHAI has also mandated to use of DGPS every 5 kilometer in our road stretch, wherever we are working for the project, so that we can eliminate the error. Okay, so that is the differential global position system. So I have spent a couple of minutes on this because this is very important in terms of survey. Because if survey is not correct in any highway project, whole data is going to get wrong, whole design is going to get wrong, whole set of quantity is going to get wrong, whole set of project costing is going to get wrong. So this coordinate system is very important, and we have to use DGPS in all our highway projects, whether it is national highway projects or even in rural roads. They have made it mandatory to use DGPS. Okay, so I will go further. So I will just ignore this slide. Okay, so this is an example of total station. So maybe in your college, you are using this as part of your curriculum, as a part of your survey. Now this is LIDAR. LIDAR survey is the latest survey technology which is used nowadays. Okay, what happens in LIDAR? Basically, see the pictures, they are showing different forms of LIDAR surveys. One is terrestrial LIDAR, first one on the left side. Let me go to the pointer, yeah. Okay, so can you see the pointer? Anybody can please confirm?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Good. So this is an example of a terrestrial survey where what we do, we keep our instrument on the ground, and then you see this instrument rotates and it captures the data all along the terrain. Okay, so this is a stationary one. Now this is through the drone. Okay, so the laser equipment is on the drone, or it can be on the aeroplane also. And from this is aerial capture. We are capturing the aerial data with the help of drones. Then this is laser equipment kept on top of a vehicle. So as the vehicle moves, it records the data and it gives us all the data. And ultimately we get a terrain like this. Right. So this LIDAR survey is again now NHAI is promoting the use of LIDAR survey along with the total station survey. And this is very fast, and accuracy level is also good nowadays in terms of LIDAR survey. And see what happens in total station, again some manual thing is there, because you have to target the objects and then you have to get the data. But in LIDAR this is all automatic, so automatically all the data is captured. I don't know whether in your college this is being shown, but this is the latest technology and it is being used in our national highway projects. Internationally also it is very widely used. Okay, now traffic studies. So along with this topographical survey, traffic studies are very important for highway projects. Why traffic study is important? See, if you remember, I mentioned about the number of lanes. How many lanes are there to be developed for a highway? That all depends on the traffic volume counts. How much volume is going to go through that road? If volume is high, we need more number of layers. Now, what is the unit for traffic volume? So in your curriculum, you study about it. So it is PCU numbers, passenger car unit. So we do total volume studies, we do speed study, we do OD studies, origin and destination survey, traffic flow characteristics, traffic capacity study, accident studies, and like that. This is an example of traffic count where we do this PCU count. So why PCU is required? Because see, on the road there is a mixed traffic. There are cars also, there are scooters also, there are buses also, there is heavy traffic also. So car is given a PCU of 1 unit, and others are given different. Like bus, it is two, a factor of two we can say. Okay, so depending on the volume, that is multiplied by 2, and we get PCU for a bus. For car, whatever is the actual volume, we multiply by 1 and we get the PCU. For motorcycle, it is zero point 0.4. Okay, so IRC recommends that, and this PCU is used internationally also. It's not only in India, it's a consistent thing which is used all over the world. Okay, now level of service. Now this is again very important because see, level of service is the basically a measure which is related to the comfort that we are providing to the users of the road. Okay, level of service, it varies from A to F. There are different levels of service, A to F. A means free flow. It is a totally obstruction free traffic movement. Okay, so you just drive without any hindrance in the traffic flow. So that is level of service A, the highest quality of level of service. Okay, B means reasonably free flow. C means stable flow. D means approaching unstable flow. E means unstable flow, and F is forced or breakdown flow. So in Delhi you can see mostly in peak hours it's E or F. Okay, but we should target to at least go for B or A. Our national highways we target at least B to be done. For expressway, we try to have A. Okay, so this all depends. This all is basically guiding factor on deciding on the number of lanes. How many number of lanes are required? Okay, financing model. Now, see, sir mentioned that we need a lot of good highways so that we are in international standards. But see, highway projects they need a lot of capital investment. Okay, so how to finance that? One is that all fund is provided by government, but government resources are limited. Okay, so they get the money with this with respect to taxes, right? So that is a limited resource. So in that case, what happens? Private participation comes into picture. So another mode is PPP, public private partnership. So it is partly funded by government and partly by private players. Again, PPP has got further models like BOTs, built, operate and transfer, HM, hybrid annuity model, TOTs, toll, operate and transfer models. Okay. Now these projects can also be funded by banks like World Bank, Asian Development, and Exim banks. Okay. Now, whenever we start a highway project, it's not that we start with the survey and we do the geometric design and we do quantities and all those things. Although those are the steps that are required, but apart from that, what we require, we also require environmental clearances. So environmental impact studies done. Okay. Because see, we have to be environmental friendly. Okay, we cannot play with the environment. So that minimum of disruption is done. Tree cutting is minimum. All those things come into the environmental things. Then forest clearances. Okay, wildlife clearances. So we should not affect wildlife. Okay, we should try to we should not go into the areas where wildlife is there. CRZ, like coastal regulatory zone. If our road is very near to the coast, okay, so we have to be careful that we are not we are not uh, changing the coast, or we are not changing something near the sea area. So that coastal regulatory zone clearances are there. So environmental ministry is there who provide all these clearances. Then land acquisition is required whenever we go for expressway or widening. So we are taking away somebody's land. So those land acquisition study, and we have to pay them. We have to adequately compensate the people who are affected. We have to rehabilitate them. So we have to do resettlement and rehabilitation studies. So these are all very important part in our highway projects. Now, associated works, in as I told you, a highway project is not a highway single project, but there are a lot of associated things along with the highway projects. Bridges are to be designed because a highway has to pass through rivers. Okay, so whenever a river comes, we have to provide a bridge. Uh, Traffic study has to be done as we as we discussed previously. Hydrology and drainage studies. See, for a bridge, how many spans are required, what is the level of bridge so that adequately water flows below it. There is no problem of flooding whenever flood comes, so the river water should not come above the bridge. So that all is part of the hydrology and drainage. Wherever a cross drainage structure is required, we have to provide that. Then geotechnical investigations, so whenever we have to design a flyover or a bridge, we need to see which foundation type we have to provide, whether we have to provide pile foundation, pier foundation, or isolated footing, and like that. So all comes as part of the geotechnical study. So our highways have to be good. They should be architecturally good and landscaping. So those studies are also done. Green highways concept is coming up. So a lot of plantation is proposed, and that is part of the reports that NHAI is making it mandatory to have green highways. Electrical, like see along the interchanges, junctions, we need to substantially provide this electrical illumination so that there is no accident, chances of accidents are there. Then toll plazas also come, bus stops, gas station, vehicle service towing station, medical assistance station, police station, electrical, all those we have to plan when we are doing a highway projects. Okay. Now, see, what are the tools that we use for highway design? Okay. See, when I started long back in 1990, okay, when I passed out and I joined a consultancy, even in government, I worked in a government organization also. Everything was done manual. Okay, there was no software because PC I saw when I passed out. Okay, when I come in the industry, and after that too, 90 to 93. In our campus, there were a couple of PCs, but that were provided only to computer students, not to civil engineering students. We used to go to a lab where this dumb terminal were there, and they were connected to the mainframe. So that Unix system was there, but that was not user friendly. So we were almost not using any computer. And similarly, when I went to the industry, so for 2 3 years I was using just manual graph papers, and then the drafting table were used by the draftsmen to do the design. Whatever design we used to give them, they used to manually put the curves on the tables. But I think in 93, 94, all this computerization started, and then I would say that I was very lucky that I was the first one to join these companies which brought software in India. And at that time, MOS System or Infrasoft or now Bentley, they came to India, and they wanted one highway engineer to uh, to use their software and to spread the knowledge of software in the highway industry. So at that time, this MX and this open road software, they came in India, and I was the person who was hired by them in Bentley, and I trained many people in this open road software for the geometric design. And I traveled a lot on those days in different countries for getting training in this software, and also imparting training in developing countries in terms of the software. So nowadays, open roads or civil 3D, they are being used for the geometric design of highways. Now, no highway is designed without any software. Okay, we cannot do any manual thing. So everything has to be done computerized. Okay, so we have to use a software for designing a software. So what is the flow? Basically, the survey data which is collected with the total station or with lidar, that directly comes into the computer, and then we start design on that survey data, and ultimately we give design to the site for execution. So everything can be like computerized. So these are the different software. Trimble Quantum, it is for optimization of alignment and route selection. Open Roads for geometric design. Alice is for pavement design. InfraWorks for conceptual design. ArcGIS for catchment area calculation. SlopeW for amendment and cut slope stability analysis. Then hydrological studies. So as I mentioned earlier, that these are for the cross drainage structures. So we have to make sure that whatever, see, when a road goes on left side of the road, right side of the road, the water has to flow below the road, right? So we have to see where a cross drainage structure is required so that the flood water doesn't come above the highway, right? So for that, hydrological studies are required. So span and level of the cross drainage structure is dependent on the amount of discharge going through it. So again, this as part of MTech, this hydrological thing is there. So if you want to go, you can go. You can do MTech in hydrology. You can do If you want to go into transportation field, you can do MTech in transportation. You can do MTech in highway engineering also. You can do MTech in geotechnical, and like that. So these are all after graduation you can go for these specialization subjects. These are simple intensity, duration, frequency curves, okay, from which we see how much rainfall is going to come and how much drainage is will be there. Query charts and disposal area, okay. So these are again required. I will not go into it, okay. Let's because of time shortage. Now, geotechnical investigation, as I mentioned, for basically foundations, we require geotechnical investigations so that foundation is strong. If foundation is strong, whole structure is going to get collapsed, right? So this is very important, geotechnical investigation. We have to properly and adequately give foundations for all bridges, culverts, flyovers, overpass, interchanges, etc., etc. These are again some studies, so I will not go into because you are going through in your curriculum. Again, steps in embankment cut. Again, this again softwares are there for finding out how much slope in embankment or cut fill is required. So they give us the data and we go for that. Okay, coming to geometrics. Again, I have covered it briefly. Okay, a highway is never straight. It has to change direction, and whenever there is change in the direction, we have to provide curves. Curves are simple circular curve and the transition curves, right? So as the picture shows, so if you see here, this is a circular curve, and then it is preceded and followed by the transition curves. Again, formulas are there, and different codes have got different formulas. So depending on the speed, we get the radius of the curve and we get the transition lengths. Again, some theoretical things like deflection angles and transition lengths. So all those things, I think you go through in your curriculum. Based on this, see, if you see, this is from AASHTO, okay, where, as I told you, design speed adopted is 130 kilometer per hour. So for 130 kilometer per hour, see, if we require a radius of 1500 meters, then there is no transition length required. So for 130 kilometer per hour, if we go for a horizontal curve radius of 1500 or above, maybe 2000, 3000, then there is no transition length required, no super elevation required, and we can give a minus 2.5, which is normal camber. So like this, the codes, they guide us and we take the inputs from them. Super elevation, I think if you are in third or fourth year, you are familiar with this. So this is the basically when a vehicle is negotiating a curve, in order to counteract the centrifugal force, super elevation is provided. This is so that the passengers, they feel comfortable, they do not feel any adverse effect when they are negotiating a curve. These are again technical things, how we achieve the super elevation with respect to, there are different ways of achieving super elevation with respect to inner edge, outer edge. Okay, so this textbook you can go through, same thing. Vertical design, so whenever there is a change in the grades, okay, we provide vertical curves. So two type of vertical curve, crest curve and sag curve, as the picture shows. Again, side distance is very important. See, this all is in terms of the safety of the road users. So we have to provide adequate side distance so that vehicles which are coming from other direction, they are seen seed right before the time, so that they do not collide with each other. So this is the vertical side distance, as you can see here. Again, different codes have different formula for this different speeds, and we make them with the calculations, and accordingly we provide the side distance in our projects. Again, this is, we have taken some guidance from AASHTO. On the curves or on the interchanges, this horizontal side distance is also required, so that a vehicle which is negotiating a curve, he is able to see the vehicle which is coming from the other side. So as you see in this picture, adequate horizontal setback distance is required so that there is no problem while driving. So again, code, different formulas are there. This is isometric view of a road in cut and fill. So you can see, if you see here, this is fill, but when it is going there, so this portion is in cut. So cut slope, fill slope, and then there is a cross drainage structure. So all those is part of the highway design. Now pavement design. So see, we discussed about the horizontal geometric design. Geometric design means horizontal curves, vertical curves, and all those things. But what about the thickness of the pavement? Okay, how many layers are to be provided? Okay, and what is the thickness of each layer? That is again all dependent on the traffic, on the weight that is coming on the road. So how much vehicle weight is going to come on the road? Again, pavement types are two types: rigid and flexible. Rigid means concrete road, and flexible means bituminous road. For concrete road, generally we take a lifespan of 30 years. For flexible, we take 15 to 20 years. In projects, we do life cycle analysis to ascertain long-term economics and to take a financial decision, cost benefit analysis on the type of road to be constructed. Because what happens, the rigid payment, the concrete payment is initially expensive, but in terms of maintenance and long-term durability, it is it comes out to be cheaper. So we have to economically justify this. So for that, we do the life cycle analysis. Again, a road cross section. On the left side, you see this is a concrete road. On the right side, this is a flexible pavement. Flexible pavement means bituminous road. It has got more number of layers because the bitumen layer is not so hard, okay, as compared to the concrete. So concrete road is having less layer, but thickness of that concrete is more. But number of layers are less, whereas in case of flexible pavement, number of layers are more, but thickness of layer is less. So again, see, there are different types of software which are available. As I mentioned, Alice is there. Then IIT Pave software is there, which is developed by IIT Kanpur. So IRC has authorized the use of that for our Indian highways, and there are codes for this. We can use those codes for finding out the pavement thicknesses and number of layers for each thickness. So these are the codes that we use. So UK TRL 250 DMRB is used, IRC 37 is used in Indian highways, AASHTO 1993 is used for American codes. So flexible pavement thickness and number of layers, as I mentioned, it is depending on the traffic load and the CBR value. CBR is basically foundation, okay, the subgrade. So CBR value is the subgrade, CBR value of the subgrade. CBR can range from 2 to 100. Okay. So if a soil is weak, it has got less CBR. We need to strengthen it, or we need to provide more number of layers. If a soil is hard, it has got more CBR, and less number of layers will work. So these spreadsheet and some softwares are there which help us to calculate the pavement thickness. Okay. AASHTO has got its own spreadsheet. IRC has got its own spreadsheet. IRC has got IIT Pave software also to determine the number of layers and the thickness of each layer. Again, this is a very vast subject. You can do a lot of research in this as part of your masters. Even in your this BTech, you can do this. Okay, so this is for rigid R58. In rigid, we provide reinforcement also, as you can see here. Okay, so again, we can go through this. Ultimately, drying production. Now, see, as part of deliverables, see, till now we discussed about the design. We started with survey, then we do the geometric design, then number of layers. Okay, but ultimately, what we have to give to the client is in terms of drawings. So drawings are basically like plan drawings, profile drawings, cross-section drawings. So based on the drawing, execution is done at the site, right? So that again now these drawings, they come directly as output from the software like Open Road software or Civil 3D software. They come as direct output. Once we have done the design, we can have the drawings generated from the software. Okay. So this is a typical sample of a plan and profile drawing. See, actually what happens, let's say highway project, it is 50 kilometer or 100 kilometer long, right? If you see the total 50 kilometer on a single sheet, whatever is the biggest size, A0 or even bigger, right? You cannot see it in details. So what we do, we generally have a sheet corresponding to 1 kilometer of the road. So each kilometer we got a sheet. So on the top there is a plan, and on the bottom there is a profile. So as you see here, plan and profile, right? So that gives us detail about that kilometer. Okay, start point, end point, and then what curve, vertical curves, super elevations, all those details they come in the plan and profile drawing. Similarly, cross section drawing. So we have got the typical cross section, or we have got the detailed cross section every 50 meters or so. Okay, now another subject which is junction, roundabout, and interchanges. See, till now we discussed about a road which is a straight, okay, straight or maybe curves, but it is a linear road. But whenever the side road that comes and meet with the main highway, so we have to provide junctions or roundabouts or interchanges. So at location of conflict points in traffic movement. Now see the location of conflict point. What do we mean by conflict points? Where traffic is merging. They are just intersecting with each other. So those are the conflict points. So there we have to either provide junctions. Junction can be signalized junctions, or it can be a roundabout or like that. But if traffic is more, in order to provide smooth movement, we provide interchanges, right? Again, that is depending on the traffic study. That's why traffic study is very important. So depending on number of PCUs and direction from where vehicles are coming, we see where flyover is to be provided, where overpass is to be provided, where an interchange is required, how many legs of interchange are to be required. So all that is part of the traffic study, which guide us to provide which type of junction is to be provided. So this is an example of add grade junctions. Okay, I think you all are familiar with it. So this is a typical roundabout. Just I will go into the, this is interchange basically. Now interchange, again you see these are again different types of interchanges. There are many more types of interchanges. These are some of the types of interchanges, okay, which are used in India and internationally. Okay, now see, this is a basically full clover leaf. So in Delhi also you can see some places this is there. This is a trumpet. Okay, again, which interchange is to be used? This is diamond. This depends on the amount of site that is available for us, because land is a problem, or depend, and also depending on the traffic, from which direction traffic is more or which direction traffic is less. So that helps us to determine which type of interchange is to be designed. So this is again a very big subject. Okay, and we have to be geometrically design it very correct. Coordinates and everything has to be perfect, so that execution is done, and then there is no problem to the vehicles which are passing through the intersections. Major bridges, flyover, overpass, I briefly touched this. Why major bridges are required? Because a highway has to cross rivers, streams, water bodies, and sometimes go above sea. Bridges are required to provide connectivity between banks on either side of the water body. A highway has to cross road, rail lines, etc. Flyovers or overpass is required. So because of all these things, we require bridges, flyover, overpass. Now, what is the vertical clearance required? Why vertical clearance is required? So that, see, when we are designing two roads which are at different level, the vehicle which is passing through below road, it should have adequate clearance so that there is no obstruction vertically when it is moving along it. So our IRC code, they have given these clearances like ROB 7 meters. So for ROB, we have to provide 7 meter clearance. Flyover and vehicular underpass, it is 5.5, and like that. Again, each code, each country has got their own norms, but generally these are similar, means not much of difference is there. So typical photographs I have added so that you get a feel of bridges. Like again, bridge design is very vast subject. Okay, so you can do masters in structural engineering and all those things, and then you can go for exclusively bridge design. Again, bridge design is different types of bridges are there. A lot of research has come up into it in terms of foundation, in terms of superstructure, and all those things. So even Delhi Metro and other metros, these all are bridge type of bridge engineering. So you can have a good career in bridges. A lot of demand is there along with highways. Flyover, overpasses, they are again part of the bridges or structural engineering. So a highway and structural engineer, they have to work collectively, because highway engineer, he has to fix the alignment, he has to fix the clearances, and the structural engineer, he has to give the requirement in terms of the span weights, the deck depth, and the thicknesses of the elements. So based on that, the highway engineer it fix the levels of the road that is going on. Okay, so the highway engineer as well as the structural engineer they have to work collectively so that the best solution comes out of the designs. I have shown you RE wall, so this you have seen a lot of flyovers are designed with RE walls. So the good part is that see one is that we can provide RE wall for the embankment. Other is that we provide embankment means one is to two slope or whatever. But then we do not have so much of space in urban areas, or we do not have so much of earthworks. Okay, so that's why RE walls are coming up everywhere. Overpass, underpass selection. There are a lot of factors like first of all, economy comes into picture. See, the cost has to be minimum whether we are deciding overpass or underpass. Okay, and there are some other factors also, traffic and all those things, which help us in determining whether we need to go for overpass or underpass. Finally, quantities and material requisitions. See, quantities, whatever we have designed till now, ultimately we need quantities. Why we need quantities? Because quantities, when multiplied by the rates, they give us the cost estimates, and cost estimate they give us the BOQs, final bill of quantities, and ultimately the total cost of the project. Because like NHA, they have to float tenders. They give some tentative cost. Why? From where that tentative cost comes? That comes all from the quantities that have come from here. So quantity is very, very important aspect. So there should not be much variation in quantities. Generally 5% variation is allowed, but not more than that, because otherwise it is going to lead to a lot of arbitration, a lot of conflicts later on with the contractor. Okay, then penalties are imposed and the projects are delayed and all those things. So quantities have to be accurate, right? Quantities come from the software. Rates are coming from the area, from the state or from the region. Rates are higher in hill areas, rates are lower in plain areas. Okay, again, different states have got different rates, their own schedule of rates, right? CPWD has got its own schedule of rate. So we have to talk to the client which rates we have to adopt, and the rates multiplied by the quantities, they give us the cost estimate. So like this, these are the specification of the items, okay, which are decided right with the beginning of the project, and based on that, we go about the project. Okay, now some of the items which are associated with the highways like toll plazas, road signs and markings. So toll plazas, as we have traveled on highways, we observe toll plazas that are coming. Nowadays, FASTag is made mandatory, so all manual this collection of toll is gone or is going away. Okay, so it is going to lead us to a seamless travel experience. That's good, very good. Okay, so different type of toll plazas. I will just go into next, which is signing system. So road signs are very, very important. Road signs as well as road markings, they are very important. Actually, when we drive on the road, when we travel on the road, what is the language that we communicate, or from where we get the guidance, from where we get the information? That is all from the road signs and road markings. Okay, that is the language which a driver talks with the, maybe I can say that on the highway. From the markings, from the signs, he gets all the information, right? And then he decides where to go, how to go, where not to go, and all those things. So signing system, basically, there are again different codes have got their own codes for this. Like IRC 67 is for road signs for India. Uh, Different types of signs are there, like mandatory or informatory or cautionary and like that. So circle is basically mandatory, which gives us orders, and rectangle is just informatory. They just tell you where to go. So let me go for the next slide. So like this mandatory slides. Okay. So these are the absolutely mandatory, means we have to follow this, otherwise uh, fine will be imposed on us. Cautionary, as you see that they are just guiding us that road is narrowing above ahead. Similarly, it is narrowing on one side or it is narrowing on both sides and like that. Then this is informatory. They just provide you information, which is the destination station that is coming, or how far is it away and like that. Where we have to go left or right and like that. At interchange, we require a lot of road signs. As you see, this is a typical example of trumpet interchange. Okay. If you see in detail, a lot of road markings, road signs are provided so that, because if we do not provide all these road signs, sometimes see, if you travel on a interchange and there are no road signs, you are totally confused where to go and where not to go. So these are very, very important when we are traveling along the interchanges or along even a normal highway also. Variable sign, this is again coming up a lot of nowadays. Like variable signs means they give live information for the road travelers, like how the traffic is ahead or what speed we have to follow. Okay, even the weather condition, like as you see here, whether fog is there or ice is there or road end is there. Sorry. So these are variable signs. Again, markings, as I mentioned. Okay, so different markings are there. They guide us about turning, lane changing, and all those things. Again, road markings on the roundabouts. Sorry. Uh, Now, highway safety devices. So this safety concept is very, very important, and it is NHAI is making it mandatory to use road safety on our highways that are being, because a lot of road accidents are happening every year. Even some of the consultants, they are specialized in road safety. Okay, IRC is doing some courses in road safety. CRRI is doing some courses in road safety. So, and road safety experts are coming up, and it is mandatory for them to certify that the design and the execution is done safely. Now, what are the devices that ensure us that safety is followed, like guardrails? Okay, typical example of guardrails. Okay, jersey barrier, highway railing. So these are typical examples of road safety devices. Very deep subject. Okay, we can do masters in it. Okay, then comes the automation. So you remember I told you something about automation. So with the help of DGPS, everything is automated nowadays. Not much in India, but in European countries, in US, most of the things are automated. So the manual hard copy prints they try to avoid. Survey data, geometric design, and then the execution at site. All is done through electronic form. Okay, manually printouts and all these things are going away. The advantage, construction becomes quite fast, accurate, and easy with the help of DGPS and machines connected to the DGPS. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so some examples of this automation, like LiDAR, 3D scanning, 3D design, automatic grading, automatic paving, okay, and then automatic maintenance. So in all phases, this all automation in construction is has come up. This slide explains you how it works. Basically, again, everything is connected with DGPS, satellite, differential global position systems. Now, see here, an engineer who is working in the office, okay, his PC. You see his PC or his laptop, it is connected with the GPS receiver, right? That GPS receiver, once the design has been done, it transmit from here to the road construction equipments, and then they automatically lay all the material on the site based on the coordinates from the satellites or the DGPS. So there is no manual intervention. So the advantage, construction is fast, it is much accurate. Okay, so this is the end slide. So let's summarize what we have done. We learned about basics of highway engineering and what we can do in masters and all those things. Different surveys, investigations about highway geometrics, drawing production, quantities, and then automation in construction. Right. So with this, I will end and I will open the forum for question answers. Feel free to ask questions.
Thank you so much, sir, for the insightful presentation. We would now take up doubt and queries from the comment section. Additionally, we request the attendees to unmute themselves and ask directly.
Okay, we'll take the first question. Shailendra, can you read out the first question in the comment section?
Bhavya, Bhavya, may I come in?
Yes, sir.
Just because I am having the class, so I will just have a quick thank to the resource person, and I have to share one thing with all the students. If you allow me, just I will take 1 minute time and I will join my class. I am having class.
Yes, sir.
So so first of all, I want to thanks Sachdevaji for nice and wonderful presentations. You have started with very basic things and how the things are changing in the current scenario. So this is very good. The concepts, whatever the present concepts you are telling to the students, because these students, they are the civil engineering student or environmental engineering students, they are much fascinated towards the current things, what is going on the artificial intelligence or the use of the software, computers. So they like this type of work. So thank to Mr. Sandeep ji. And I want to share one thing from to all the students. Currently, National Highway Authority of India, we have signed the MOU with NHAI, and we have adopted about 4 national highways. And the National Highway Authority of India is going to give the internship for about 20 PTech and MTech students who wants or who will work, who can work in their respective national highways. So these details I have already passed on to the uh, training and placement department. So this is a very good opportunity has been given to us by the National Highway Authority of India, NHAI. So more and more persons, more and more students who want to do internship in the sectors of highway, they can join that internship. So with this, I'm thank you. I'm thankful to the resource persons and all the students and the organizers who has done this arrangements and everything. So thank you very much, sir. I am having the class, so that's why I may be allowed to leave the sessions, and the students may ask as many as questions to the sir. And if sir is having the time, he can explain you now, or you can take his contact numbers or email address. So you keep on interacting with such type of persons, then you will get more and more benefits. So thank you very much to everybody.
Thank you
Thank
very
you, sir.
much.
Thank you so much, sir.
Sandeep, sir, our first question is, what is the sequence of 4 stages of survey in a highway alignment?
Sequence of survey.
Yes, sir.
Basically, see, as I mentioned, you start with the topographical survey, right? So, if you have done, we did survey as part of our curriculum, and we went to JNU and we did survey, right? We fixed some stations. So first of all, you have to fix some, like nowadays DGPS stations. So DGPS is basically differential global position system. That is the reference station. So NHAI has made it mandatory to have DGPS at every 5 kilometers. So those are the stations from we do where we do the elimination of errors. You see, there are some errors when we do the survey. Okay, in terms of, because Earth is round, globe is round, it's not flat, right? So those errors are eliminated, like closing of traverse and all those things are done with the help of DGPS. So first of all, DGPS cable stations are established. Then we have stations in between every 250 meters, which are temporary benchmarks. TBMs, we call that as temporary benchmarks. And then we calculate the road survey data. So that is the sequence.
Hello.
Hello. Hello, Nikhil. Myself, Nikhil. Hello.
Yes, you're audible.
Yes, Nikhil, you can ask.
सर एक्चुअली मेरा क्वेश्चन था कि मैं जैसे 2019 का पास आउट हूँ फ्रॉम सिविल और मैंने इंडस्ट्रियल और एमडीआर रोड पे काम किया है, ठीक है? हेलो.
I Alankar kindly mute themselves. They'll be asking the question after Ankit. Nikhil.
या मैम एक्चुअली मैं 2019 का पास आउट हूँ और मैंने 1 साल मतलब 2019 के बाद मैंने रोड में काम किया हूँ, इंडस्ट्रियल रोड में. उसके बाद मैं अभी जस्ट एक कंपनी में इंटरव्यू दिया था जो आरडीएस प्रोजेक्ट लिमिटेड करके है. तो क्या ऐसा है कि मतलब सैलरीज वगैरह इतना कम क्यों होता है? मतलब वहाँ पे मैं जो अभी ले रहा हूँ वहाँ पे उन्होंने मेरे को बस 17,000 सैलरी ऑफर किया है. और वही चीज अगर निस्मार्क से बंदा पढ़ के आ रहा है, कहीं से आ रहा है, तो वो चीज उनको 7 लाख 8 लाख का पैकेज देते हैं, जबकि उनका एक्सपीरियंस नहीं है उस चीज में।
एक्चुअली ये वेरिएशन ये डिपेंड करता है आप कहाँ से पास आउट हो, क्या आपका कुछ कैपेबिलिटी है, फिर किस प्रोजेक्ट में आपने काम किया है। प्लस पोस्ट ग्रेजुएशन आई वुड सजेस्ट कि पोस्ट ग्रेजुएशन करना जरूरी है in terms of like maybe you can do it in transportation engineering or highway engineering or geotechnical engineering or structural engineering. So only BTech doesn't help much nowadays. Okay, maybe अगर आप in the later part of your career, okay, if you want to become team leader or this thing, the weightage given to the postgraduates nowadays. Okay, so always better if you can afford to do post graduation, go for it. Your value
Request
becomes more.
to kindly mute and first.
Sir, what is the main difference between highway engineering and transportation engineering?
Transportation engineering is mostly based on the like it is traffic. Okay, how much traffic will be there, flow of traffic. Okay, then like you have to develop a city, so where the roads have to come. Okay, whereas highway engineering is basically the alignment fixation and then the quantities calculation, drawing production and like that. Transportation is basically into the traffic part.
ओके, और एक क्वेश्चन और है कि और ये सैलरी हाइक में क्या मेन पर्पस होता है कि आप मान लो अगर आपके पास एक्सपीरियंस हो गया 2 साल 3 साल का, तो क्या चांसेस है सैलरी हाइक होने का? क्योंकि मैंने अभी तक जितनी कंपनियां देखी है वो सैलरीज बहुत कम ऑफर करते हैं।
इसके बारे में मैं अभी इतना नहीं बता पाऊंगा क्योंकि आई डोंट नो मैंने तो मोस्टली कंसल्टेंसीज में काम किया है एंड ट्राई टू गेट इनटू whether I should say or not, but MNCs are mostly higher paying as compared to the domestic companies. So try to join MNC, you will get better compensation and better rise.
ओके,
Thank you, Nikhil. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Sir, our next question is, what is the minimum and maximum speed of vehicle in the case of mobile LiDAR to generate a precise 3D point cloud?
What is the, sorry, maximum?
Yes, sir. What is the minimum and maximum speed of vehicle in the case of mobile LiDAR to generate a precise 3D point cloud?
That actually depends on, see, there are different manufacturers of those vehicles. Okay, generally 50 kilometer, they travel around 50 kilometer per hour, right? And then they capture the data. So it should not be that you are traveling at 150 kilometer per hour or so, or not even so slow that 10 kilometer per hour. Generally, average speed of 50 kilometer per hour is okay, and you can capture the data in that. There is absolutely no problem.
Thank you, sir. Sir, the next is, what is the key to success when communicating with the public? Like sometimes highway construction need to take the land of public. How would you deal with that?
That is actually a challenge. So whosoever is losing his land, he will do whatever he can do so that his land is not gone. So for that, generally counseling sessions are done, and even the not even consultant but the authorities, they are involved, because ultimately it is the responsibility of the government, not the concessionaire or not the consultant to get the land, because finally the compensation has to be given by the government to the persons who are getting affected. So involve the government officials because they are in a much better position to negotiate with them.
Okay, sir, the next question is like, it is basically a database. Union Road Transport Minister Nitin Gadkari was seen slamming the National Highway Authority of India officials for the delay in completing construction of its headquarters in the national capital has gone viral. According to Honorable Minister, non-IIT students have a lot of issues while handling project in NHA. So according to you, sir, what are the non-IIT students' skills, topic, project, etc., which should be useful in future so that non-IIT student can give their contribution in NHA?
see, whether it is IITians or non-IITians, see, they have to follow the latest technologies. Okay, the technology is changing rapidly. Whatever technologies which we were using couple of years back, they are obsolete in terms of resources, also in terms of survey, also in terms of execution, also. So we have to keep updated with the trends internationally, right? So that we provide the latest technology, latest equipment, latest resources, and we try to use the optimum resources. So whether you, after passing out, you are from whichever college, but you have to get yourself updated. Otherwise, you will become obsolete and you will become redundant.
Sir, the next one is what is the most challenging part of budgeting for any highway project?
Arranging the resources, arranging the budget, that is the highest challenging part, because from where to get the resources, okay, from where to get the money. You see, our finance minister also, they, when they are going for the budget, so along with the budget allocation, they also go for from where the resources are coming. So they introduce some sort of cess on the petrol or some other cess on the income tax and all those things, and then they get some money. So the biggest challenge is how to get the resources, the money. So that's why EPC projects are there, BOT projects are there, where public participation is there, and then even some of the World Bank people are requested to get the loans from them, soft loans. JICA is there from where we get the loans, and like that.
Yes.
All right.
Sir,
So I
so
would just request Prathamesh Guge and Chandan Grover. If they have any other doubts, kindly unmute yourselves and like directly ask, sir. If the clarity is not, if the answers are not clear for you, guys. All right, sir. So there are a few questions
Hello,
that people have DM'd us also.
hello, hello.
Yes, 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 yes.
Sir, can we generate DM and or DSM using point cloud generated from UAV radar?
LiDAR generally gives you point cloud data, POD, and then yes, we can generate terrain out of that. Surely we can do that. And we can use that terrain in terms of our highway project. So that is being used nowadays. No problem in that. Not even for highway, even for railway site development, LiDAR is very much used. And LiDAR, as I mentioned, you can do land surveys, you can do aerial surveys, and like that.
Okay, then we can generate DAM or DSM from it or
Yeah,
DTM.
yeah, yeah.
Thank you, sir. And next question is, what is the horizontal and vertical accuracy of DGPS in real-time kinematic or in PPK mode, like static mode or post-processing mode?
It is
Like,
to the order of 1 centimeter to 2 centimeters.
in horizontal direction.
Yeah,
Okay.
vertically also. Yeah,
Okay.
in
Okay.
terms of
In one,
levels also.
it may depend upon the number of satellites moving in the
Exactly, exactly.
sky. Okay. 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 And next question is, in TLS LiDAR, we have to shift the machine after first scan if the area is not covered in the first scan.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Testing.
Yes, 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 yes. Unless and until that terrestrial LiDAR, it cannot see that object, so how it will collect the data? So you have to move. Yes.
Okay, and we can change the angle, vertical angle and horizontal angle to cover the particular object, like 360 degree in horizontal and like 290 to 300 degree in vertical direction.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is there any option like custom? We can change the customized.
To be frank with you, I have not done this used LiDAR survey, because that is mostly, if you see, that is survey people who do it. So surveyors, they do it. Okay, so they give us the data, but we guide
Okay.
them, and so maybe a surveyor can help you with that.
Okay. Okay, sir. Thank you.
So we have next question from Gauri Shankar Shafle. This question is, what are the internship opportunities available at NHAI BTech final year for BTech final year students?
Yeah, sir mentioned that, no? Srivastava sir. So he mentioned same thing.
Right. So we will be telling you again. We'll briefly tell you later. I will provide a document from sir's whatever sir was saying. It was generally for MTech students he was saying, but I'll just discuss with him and let you know again. Shailendra, do we have any other questions? People who are DM'd us?
Yeah. Yes. So the last question is, sir, is there any database of potholes on the road available?
Actually, NHAI, couple of years back, they made one database system of the existing highways. Okay, actually, that is a very good question, and that comes as part of the asset management system. You see, not only potholes, okay, about the condition survey of the road. Now, again, this is a very vast subject because in terms of budget allocation, this I am talking about the maintenance, not new road. India has got, see, lakhs of kilometers of highways. Now, every year, how much budget has to be given to each road? At present, this is all manual decision, but that again can be computerized, right? Now, what are the factors that are required in order to make that decisions? See, that is the condition of the road. One is this condition which include potholes and distress and all those things on the road. Then another is the traffic, right? How much traffic is going to be there on that road? So based on that, then again there are softwares on which all this data is input, and then how much budget is available, and then it distributes the budget for each and every road. So this is a road asset management system. Again, a very deep subject, and it involves GIS and all those things. Even Oracle is required in this. We did one project in this for Odisha. Okay, NHI also is trying to do some project on this, but still it is in the implementation phase. But yes, this is a very vast subject, and all the conditions of the road, traffic, etc., are given as part of the database, and then decisions are made.
Thank you, sir. So now we now request our president to give his vote of thanks. Abhishek, sir, over to you.
So, good afternoon, everyone. We would like to thank Mr. Sandeep Sachdeva, sir, for his insightful session. And we all have gained a lot of knowledge which would be helpful in our studies as well. And I would also like to thank Professor Amit Kumar Srivastava, who has to leave because of his prior class schedule, and all the council members of Society for Civil and Environmental Engineers who have worked dedicatedly to make this event a successful one. At the end, Sandeep sir, we would like to welcome you in the campus whenever the situation is normal. And from the whole heart, we would like to thank you for this insightful session and taking out your time to give us a brief about this whole scenario. So thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you especially to Bhagya, Shailendra, and to you, Abhishek, for organizing this very wonderfully. It was very smooth, and I appreciate the work that you have done. So thank you. I would like to come to the campus. Let's see when it happens.
Definitely. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
I would also like to tell everybody that they can put on their queries in the comment section. We have given us the link for LinkedIn. You can ask queries and also give us on Instagram for any other updates and events like such. And it was great having you, sir. Thank you so much. We are looking forward to having you again in more such events. Thank you so much, sir.
Thanks, and all the best for your careers.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, everybody. Looking forward for more such events later.